Hello everyone and welcome to France 24. You're watching Eye on Africa. Coming up in the programme, we'll take a look at how business and financial aid in Africa could be affected by the UK's decision to leave the EU. And we'll also talk about the presidential pardon given to Karim Wade, the son of the former Senegalese president accused of corruption. And we'll take you to South Africa, where black students are determined to take ballet classes that had been for years reserved to the white minority. And we start with this edition with the news that's grabbing most world headlines today, the Brexit. Now, you might think it's a bit far-fetched to talk about the UK's vote to leave the European Union in a show that's dedicated to Africa, but the Brexit could potentially have a big economic impact on the African continent. Well, France 24's Ben Barnier is with us in the studio. Ben, tell us how the Brexit will affect the situation in Africa.
Well, at least 7 countries are likely to be affected. They are South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Botswana, Angola and Senegal. They represent 80% of the UK's exports to sub-Saharan African countries, and some of them are former British colonies, including South Africa, Kenya and Nigeria. One of the immediate consequences for South Africa is that the local currency, the rand, lost 8% against the US dollar, but it gained against the tumbling pound. And to get a better sense of how that's going to affect the South African economy, we can now listen to the financial analyst Bismarck Rwane.
Britain is not a major importer of African commodities as such. So for Nigeria, for example, Nigeria does not sell oil to Britain, does not sell LNG to Britain, and sells only a limited amount of cocoa. So in terms of our export destinations, it doesn't affect Nigeria, but in terms of imports, it makes the imports cheaper.
And British companies doing business in Africa are in competition with Chinese firms, and with the pound possibly tumbling down, this could be actually good for business. It could make British products cheaper to buy for African customers. And now you have to bear in mind, there's another big question, is the amount of money dedicated to aid programs, with the UK pledging to dedicate 0.7% of its gross national income to aid programs. Now, if the economy was to go into recession, so would the amount of money dedicated to aid programs. Last but not least, an essential aspect is the necessary negotiation of trade agreements. All those trade agreements were done under the EU. Now the UK will have to renegotiate, and they might use the Commonwealth as a platform for that.
All right, and we'll see how that story unfolds. Thank you very much for that analysis, Ben Barnier. All right, we'll move away from the Brexit impact on Africa. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, a provincial deputy and 74 suspected militiamen have been arrested. They're accused of raping dozens of girls in the restive province of South Kivu in the east of the country. According to the Congolese Justice Minister, the suspects targeted young girls because they believed it gave them supernatural protection. In other news, Karim Wade, the son of the former Senegalese president Abdoulaye Wade, has been released from prison earlier than expected. Last year, Wade was found guilty of corruption, accused of enriching himself with at least $200 million under his father's rule. After having spent more than 3 years behind bars, Wade has been pardoned by the current leader, Macky Sall, and Wade is now has flown to Qatar straight after his release in the middle of the night. Take a listen to how the population's reacting to the news.
What I can't understand is that he can lock someone up for 3 years, and there are billions spent on his conviction, and then one morning you wake up to see he's been pardoned. I think he hasn't done anything, because if he had done something, he wouldn't have been freed.
What has happened is pure politics, because he was freed in the middle of the night. He left Senegal. No one has seen him. It's not normal. Karim Wade has wasted the country's money. He needs to be convicted and do his time. He should not have been left out like that. It's just not normal.
A South African court has ruled that Jacob Zuma should face almost 800 charges over corruption, racketeering and money laundering. The decision goes against a previous ruling that dates back to 2009, when the charges were dropped just before Zuma came to power. The South African president has long been involved in corruption scandals while in office, and this time he's accused of taking bribes over an arms deal 17 years ago, while Zuma has always denied any wrongdoing. While staying in South Africa more than 2 decades after the apartheid, many feel South Africa remains a racially divided nation. For years, ballet classes, for example, seemed to be reserved to the white minority. Well, that's starting to change in the township of Soweto, symbol of the anti-apartheid movement. Now, an increasing number of black students are training to become prima ballerinas. Take a look.
These dancers in Soweto are part of a new wave of ballet enthusiasts in South Africa's black townships, mastering a dance that for years was reserved for the country's white minority.
I also wanted to do ballet when I grew up, but we couldn't because there was no ballet in townships. We had to go out in town and pay for the lessons. So I was very excited when I heard about this program.
One morning a week, Soweto's new ballet teachers are taught by Maria, a dance teacher from Cuba. She's used to training much more experienced teachers and has to be patient with her new recruits.
It's a difficult experience for me because in Cuba, teachers have been studying ballet for 8 years, but not here. So what do? I begin by teaching them the basics of classical dance. Concentration is also very important, as much as passion. Without love, nothing succeeds.
Todo lo que se hace con amor se logra, señor.
Maria's students become teachers in the afternoon, taking the children through the moves they've just learnt.
I like dancing more than anything else. It's nice. I like it. It makes me happy.
Teaching classical dance in the townships has been the brainchild of South Africa's international ballet competition. And the head of the project isn't hiding his ambitions.
The point of the program is indeed to find the ballerinas of the future. When Benjamin Millepied was the director of the Paris Opera, he was talking about the lack of transformation in the Paris Opera. And so I would love, in 8 years or 10 years, a young kid from this project to land up in the Paris Opera.
The project aims to train 1,000 black teachers over 3 years, who in turn will train thousands more children, bringing ballet to a new generation of dancers who've been excluded for so long.
Funky clothes, gorgeous models and art exhibitions. The fashion carousel is in full swing in Congo. It's the 3rd edition, and this year young designers and hairdressers took part in a competition. They had just 10 minutes to come up with the most unusual look. The visitors were impressed by their performance and they were keen to bring the African vibe abroad. Take a listen to them.
This year in particular, what drew my attention was a number of designers in Europe and America using African prints. This year, the fashion carousel is showcasing African trends of the future. It focuses on how we can influence those outside of Africa. And why are they using African prints? A possible answer is that they are inspired by us. It is time for Africa to wake up and reclaim its place in the fashion world.
We know where we're going. We are trying to progressively move towards showing the world that we have clear ideas of our own. Since culture is indicative of a nation, these events reveal what we do best.
And that wraps up this edition of Eye on Africa. Thanks for watching.